It's time for Views from the Stands with your hosts, Stevie B, G-Mike, and BC. Let's get it poppin', y'all.
What up? What up? Welcome into Views from the Stands on a Friday night. It has been a little bit, and I do apologize for that. Had a lot of stuff going on. It is great to be back with my boy, Mr. G. Mike. How are you doing, my friend?
Feel good, baby. It's Good Friday, so you already know. Happy Easter, everybody. Early Easter, but happy Easter to everybody.
Absolutely, man. You got a whole bunch going on in the sports world as well. Today we have a fun-packed show, man. We just got some breaking news we're going to get into here in a minute. We also have a special guest coming on, Mr. Tim Benson, which you guys are going to love. It's going to be a great time with him. But we got some NBA news. We have some controversy coming up with the NBA and the MLB. We get to have a little discussion about that one. Kirk Cousins gets paid again. Tell me if you've heard that one before, man, which is insane. We also have the men's Final Four coming up this weekend. Just a whole bunch of good stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our special guest for the night.
Special guest Views from the Stands.
Welcome into the show, Mr. Tim Benson. How's it going, my friend?
What's going on, gentlemen? It is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. The pleasure's ours, man. So we like to usually give everybody a couple minutes to explain themselves, where you got going on, what you're promoting, anything what you got going on. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Bro, yeah. So I've had a wild career. I started in local media back in the day when that actually mattered. You know, back when like the local TV stations were like how we talked about all this stuff. I'm a Denver native, so I got started out there covering Broncos, Nuggets, Avs, Colorado Buffs football. Loved that, and then moved up to Eugene, Oregon, covered the Ducks and the Oregon State Beavers for a bit. Career's taken all kinds of turns since then. I did sports marketing for a bit. I did some, play-by-play for local high school and college sports. But you know what? I just love chopping it up. I just love talking sports. Whether I had a microphone in front of me, whether you guys were having the show, I would be yapping about this stuff. I would be thinking about this all day. So it's great to be here. Love what you guys do with your show. There's a lot we can discuss today. Like you said, Stevie, there is a ton going on right now, and just excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a hell of a difference going from Denver all the way out to the West Coast out there, man. That's a hell of a transition, man.
Yeah.
One of our classmates, he actually does local sports over there. His name's Titus Cleveland. Whenever you get a chance, check out. I think it might be CBS. And if it's not, it's one of the local news stations over there. I know that for a fact because he's always covering the Denver Broncos, Denver Nuggets, Colorado. What's the mascot for the Colorado team that Prime coaches for? I forgot the mascot.
Oh yeah, the Buffaloes.
The Buffaloes. There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
what did you have to talk about when Sherdor wasn't there at that point? I mean, was there anything that Colorado football did before that, or what?
Right,
dude. The Buffs media day was rough back then. This was when the Pac-12 was still a thing, and the Buffs were literally, they were going 1-11 every year. Media day was brutal. We're all just kind of sitting there. The coach is getting fired. He knows he's getting fired. You're just kind of like doing the song and dance. Like, so how can I ask you the same stuff I ask you every week? How can we keep this show on the road? Like, no one wants to be there. It was tough, man. Those are the real like greasy, grimy days as a sports reporter. Like when you've got to cover a team that is just getting dog walked all the time, and you have nothing to cover. You've talked about how bad things are over and over again. You do not have a single ounce of like a positive spin left. Like those are the real grind of a day. So yeah, man, Prime gets there, and I'm so jealous of everyone. I'm like, this guy is a content machine. All you have to do is wait 30 seconds, and you've got half an hour worth of stuff to talk about. Back when I was there covering the Buffs, oh man, it was like, okay, are we going to lose to freaking UCLA by 3 touchdowns or 4? It was a rough time.
So I did have a question for you real quick, just because you're talking about local getting that stuff like that. How did you get your start into local? Because a lot of people, honestly, just for our experience, we both went to Full Sail University in Orlando, and getting your start in that kind of stuff is extremely hard. And so Dan Patrick, that's where we graduated from the school of Dan Patrick. it's a rough start, So how did you actually get into local media, and how did that all transpire, really?
Yeah, man, I wish I had, a more uplifting answer, but it really is like who you know. I happen to, get to know one of the main anchors at the CBS station in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got my start. He was kind of a family friend. I bought him coffee one morning and was like, "Look, I want to do this. I want to try and, work in local media. This sounds cool to me, and I'm a huge sports fan. I could talk all day about, stuff you guys are covering all day." And got me introduced to some of the producers there, hit it off, did an internship, kind of moved into more and more senior roles. But man, that industry is so crazy because, even back then, this was a long time ago, like the writing was kind of on the wall, like it just was not making the same money it used to. I can't imagine how things are now. Like you said, the School of Dan Patrick, like nowadays it's all about you just got to do it. You just got to make it. There's no like real distribution through TV anymore, unless you're like ESPN, unless you're at like the very, very top. Like you just got to make your own way and try to get people to catch on. It's such a different time. There's no more gatekeepers anymore, which is one thing, but then you've just got a sea of competition. It's so congested trying to break through, trying to get anyone to, notice what you've got to say. At least back in my day, yeah, it was a grind, and yeah, I was doing local TV, but like, there was nowhere else where people were going to hear about the Ducks. Like they had to watch the 6 and 7 o'clock news to see what I had to say. So at least I had that platform. That platform is going away. It's shifting so much more towards TikTok, towards what we're doing right here, which is great. But because so many people can do it, it's really hard to pierce through and, get noticed. So shout out to you guys for doing this. It is not easy. It is not easy getting your foot in the door. I know that, but things are different. I think, like I said, there's no more gatekeeping. So, you can let the cream rise to the top, so to speak. It's not about like, hey, who knows the right people like I did a long time ago.
Yeah, so let me also, just so everybody knows as well, we have Mr. Tim Benson on here. And just we want to give a quick shout out real quick to Podmax. That's actually where we met Tim on here. And he reached out, we connected, and looking forward to everything that we're going to have transpiring and continue to work together. But having said that, Podmatch is a great company to deal with. They've stand up great people. So if you're looking at any kind of podcasting or anything like that, I would highly recommend Podmatch. They have been fantastic for us. We've gotten to meet so many different people. Like I was just saying, like we just met Tim on here. It's just been a great company. So if you're ever kind of considering doing any kind of podcast work, Podmatch is a no-brainer. The price is right, and you'll meet so many interesting people. So shout out to those guys, and they're always available for you. Answer any questions. So I got nothing but high praise for Podmatch. They've been a fantastic company to help us out with.
Yeah, and it's good to keep that you have that mindset to keep writing and keep going, because like if you haven't noticed, but in the last few months, Netflix started putting stuff on their channel with podcasts, with sports podcasts and stuff like that. And any type of newscast really is going up in the world. Like you got I think it was the Golden Globes or the Oscars that they had an award for the best podcast of the year. Like, and it just goes to show that people want to hear more authentic stuff, their true people's self, from other people, that instead of CNN, Fox, ESPN, CBS, like they want to hear from the people that act and do stuff like them on a day-to-day basis, instead of like these big-time names and these big-time players that they're like, yeah, what they say makes sense, but have you been in the gutter like I have been?
G-Mac, that's such a great point, man. And, in this business and what we're talking about here, like no one cares about your resume. No one cares about your LinkedIn. They want to see, can you do it? So just do it, just make it, and that's what's going to lead to opportunities. I've had a lot of random one-off gigs show up here and there, just simply because I had something on camera. I could show that, hey, I've been on live TV here and there. I've talked about this and that. And so just putting yourself out there, just doing what you guys are already doing is a lot better than, any kind of spam, like AI written LinkedIn post or something like that. Just get out there, take a crack at it, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, great advice. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into what everybody came here for. Let's jump into some news.
News from the world of sports.
All right, well, we just had some breaking news come out just before we went live on air. Luka Doncic is officially going to be out for the remainder of the season. As of right now, it was a couple days ago. We went down with a hamstring injury. Everybody was kind of concerned on what was going to happen with this. Turns out it's a lot more serious than we all kind of thought. And he's going to be out indefinitely. They do not have a timetable set for it yet. Tim, man, this was huge for the Lakers, huge for Luka. What's your thoughts on this one?
This is tough, man. They were starting to really click. They looked like they had a lot of good things going into the playoffs. Now, granted, I think the Thunder and the Spurs are, eventually going to duke it out for the Western Conference, no doubt. But the Lakers had a nice thing going, and this really takes the air out of their sails. You know what I'm noticing? I know this is hot off the presses. We haven't had a ton of time to digest, but what I'm seeing is what you just said, Stevie. They are being kind of cagey, kind of tight-lipped about timetables, which is not a good sign. If he was going to be back in 2 weeks, they'd be saying that. If he was going to be back for the first round of the playoffs, they would be letting the world know. They don't have a clue right now, which is not a good sign. That means they need to figure out the extent of the injury. They need to figure out how quickly they want to roll out this from this info from a PR perspective. This is not good news if you're a Lakers fan, especially since, the elephant in the room is how much longer is LeBron going to be productive? I mean, this was maybe kind of one of their last shots to have this version of the Lakers make a deep run. This is a dagger if you're a Lakers fan. I don't have any other way to put it right now.
Yeah, definitely, man. The Lakers are not going to be able to do nothing without Luka Doncic. I'm sorry to say it. You saw it during that game. Once Luka went out, that game went downhill fast. I think they lost about 25 or 28, something like that. And the heater that he has been on for the last few months, and so has Austin Reeves, which I think that they play very well off each other. It's like a Batman Robin type situation. He went crazy, I think, for a month and a half for a stretch of games of 8 to 9, where he almost scored 40 in all of those games, but he scored more than 28 points in most of those games. He had 2 triple doubles. Most of them were double doubles. He was going crazy. Obviously, on the defensive side, he's always been a liability, which is why LeBron has taken that step back on that role of, I'm going to hustle more. I'm going to get more rebounds. I'm going to play better defense. I'm going to distribute the ball more and more so I could be the third person on this team that gets the ball while Reeves and Luka, they do their own thing. I'm 41 years old, man. You know what? I'm going to take a back seat, and it is what it is. I'm going to ride this train to the wheels fall off. But now the wheels are falling off. Luka Doncic is now with a hamstring injury, which was actually an injury that happened last week or the week before that against the Rockets, but they didn't sit him out because he came on the court and he was like, yo, you know what? I'm good. I could go in the game. He ended up going in the game. But the thing with hamstring injuries, man, and I know this from personal experience, is that they linger. They will not go away. If you have a hamstring injury, unless you get some type of surgery on it, which most likely will happen for him in the summer because he's such a young player and he's such a generational player that he needs to fix that. If he's going through the playoffs with a hamstring injury, I would not be surprised him missing a game or two during the playoffs in the first round.
Yeah, I know, and it's wild too because just going on that heater that you were talking about that Luka was just on. I make no quarrels about him. I'm a Mavs fan, so losing him was a big thing. But this has kind of always been the Luka story, though, too. If you think about it, really, is that he gets to this point, goes on heaters, goes great, goes nasty, and then somehow, some way ends up getting hurt, kind of thing. I mean, if you remember, that's kind of how Jalen Brunson became Jalen Brunson. Was in that playoff series. Jalen Brunson had to take over. And that's whenever everybody was like, oh, Jalen Brunson's the real deal. So I hope the best for Luka. I hope he's able to come back because, let's face it, he's one of the most exciting players to watch in the league. And the league is better whenever he's in it. It's such a blow to, like you were saying, Tim, about for the Lakers fans that, man, they really had a little bit of hope left that this could be, like you were saying, the last run on this one. But so what we were saying as well, this brings up the thing that's been a topic coming up a lot more lately is this 65 game span with the NBA MVP. Do you guys think that there should be any kind of tweaks to this one? No pun intended, because most of these guys have been injured. But having said that, G-Mike, do you think that there should be any kind of rules change this or anything. Luka Doncic's agent has already said that he's going to be filing a grievance with the NBA, saying that it was extreme circumstances and they have to be able to prove it. I guess you're able to actually get 62 games with some sort of extreme circumstances. I don't know if he's going to be able to get proof for it or not. G-Mike, you think this is a legit rule and it should be sticking around?
I do think it's a legit rule that should be sticking around, but I do feel like there should be a tweak to it. And I actually thought about it all day today. And I think in my opinion, the best solution would be stop the eligibility mark when March comes around. Because at the end of the season, the players want to play. They want to get that momentum going into the playoffs. They want to help their team get a better seed win because home court advantage is a thing. You want to have that home court advantage going throughout the playoffs. Either it's the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed. It doesn't matter. If you're the higher seed going against the lower seed, you're going to have that home court advantage going to game 7, right? But let's not get it twisted. The players did this themselves. Started with Kawhi Leonard, and it started going down from there. Like, a lot of them want to cry and nag about how, I want to be in the awards, but right now it's taking away my incentives, my bonus money, because if they get into All NBA and all these awards, they get money off that. If you guys didn't know, the fans out there, but they end up getting money. So yeah, they're going to cry and nag or whatever, but you guys should have talked to your peers, NBA Players Association, whatever the acronym stands for. And you should have talked to your peers and been like, yo, we need you guys to stop load managing because it's messing up our money, right? The NBA needed to do something because load managing was going crazy. Dudes were sitting out for whatever reason, not because of a true injury, because it just felt like sitting out. And, dude, at the end of the day, man, this game, any type of sports, any type of entertainment, goes to the fans. The fans are the ones that bring in the money because they're the ones that want to watch and enjoy the product. And if you're going out there just sitting games because you just feel like, oh, I need a rest and I don't feel like playing today, dude, there's families out there that spend a whole month paycheck to take their whole family to go watch you play, but you want to go down there and sit down. And now you want to cry and nag that you can't get an NBA award because they put a restriction of 65 games. You guys should have worked on it yourselves.
Where are you at with this one, Tim?
G-Mike, you took the words out of my mouth. Like, they had to do something, right? They had to do something. The load management was just getting out of control. And I'm glad you're sticking up for, kind of the working man, the working family who's trying to be a fan of basketball and trying to go see a game. I mean, the amount of money that has probably been offloaded over the years because it's the one night the Lakers are rolling into town. It's the one night the Cavs are rolling in. It's some one of these star-studded teams rolls into town. They kind of, pick their date on the calendar. This is when we're going to go. And then it just gets ruined because, these guys are so careful about, preserving things. They had to do something. The league had to do something to step in and stop it. We can all, kick and scream about whether it should be 62, 65, 68, but they had to draw the line somewhere, and they did. And you know what? This is how progress gets made. It's rarely nailed on the first try, but you make a change happen. You usually see some progress, and then you can keep, refining it, getting it better from there. So I agree with everything you were saying. It's interesting cutting it off in March. I don't hate that idea at all. It's crazy because I think the writers, the people who vote on this, they're instructed to you can't. They vote before the playoffs. I think, they're trying to not take in a playoff series into account. But I think what organically happens is it becomes like the award for who had like the best February and March, or who had like the best April even. There's been years where you could make an argument for a wire-to-wire winner, but then, some guy just goes off in the last 15, 20 games of the season, and he's who ends up getting the award. So it's already pretty lopsided in terms of how things are evaluated. I don't hate the idea of just, look, let's cut it off March 1st. You guys do the best you can for, your first 60 games of the year, and we'll kind of evaluate things from there. Maybe that kind of puts the rest of this into place. But yeah, I don't hate the 65 degree at all. I'm a big supporter of it. Sure, I'm sure we can find ways for it to get better, but you know what? This had to happen. This was overdue.
Yep.
Yeah, so some of the players as of right now, and this is up to date with Luka being out there. So some of the players that are ineligible right now: Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, Giannis, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Cade Cunningham, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Sabonis, and John Morant, Jalen Williams. So some of the rules of this one, so that just so people understand this whole thing. The players must play at least 65 regular games. At least 63 of the games include a minimum of 20 minutes played, which I think that's a very reasonable ask for some of these superstars in here. So I do believe that they tried to make some exceptions for things, and I think that the 20 minutes is fine. It's hard to say sometimes because, like you guys were saying, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. And it does come down to sometimes recency bias whenever these guys, like you're saying, that last month also, it's like that's what's only on your mind, and everybody forgets about how October went or all these other ones. So I do think you're right. I think there is room for improvement on it. But I think that it does come down to a game of, if you're able to get to play to get the award, So how are you going to get penalized, or how are you going to get upset about something whenever you're not even playing the whole game? So I agree with you. I think that I would keep it in there. There could be some different changes that if you want to, change it around a little bit, sure. But I think that something like this needs to stay intact because otherwise these guys are going to take complete advantage of it and just have one great month and say I'm an MVP.
Yeah. This whole thing, it almost kind of has shades of like back when college players weren't making a dime, and so it had to kind of happen under the table, and there was kind of this unspoken dynamic of like, we don't like this thing, but we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. It almost kind of feels like the NBA has done that for years to a certain extent, where they just don't want to acknowledge that load management exists. So maybe you go the complete opposite and you lean into it and say, look, if you're, set whatever threshold you want. If you make $30 million a year or something like that, you get 5 designated load management games a year. You have to declare it months in advance or something like that, so you don't get, kind of the working man who gets screwed over trying to go see some of these stars play. Maybe you just say, look, we know this is a thing. We don't want it to cost the average NBA fan tons of money and have them get ripped off. Maybe we just try to designate some sort of amount where we recognize you've got a lot of games to play. Some of them are on Christmas. Some of them are in Europe. We realize the demands that an 82-game schedule has on you. But you know what? We got fans who pay good money to watch you guys play. We have to do this load management stuff in a way that's more fair and less, under the table, less backroom, less fake injury designations. I don't know. I would explore something like that if I was the league, to just shine a light on some of this, get this more out in the open rather than all this kind of backroom conniving stuff that's been happening for years.
That's actually a great idea, because now you saying that just pops up the reasoning behind it in my head, and it's kind of, you compare it to work and school, right? For the regular person, when it comes to work, you got PTO, you got sick, you got leave. If you're having a kid, you got parental leave. There's different incentives when it comes to getting paid to not be at work, right? So it kind of makes sense there. And even then with school, the reason why I bring up school is because when you watch the Lakers, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves go up against the Houston Rockets, Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, if Fred VanVleet was there, it would be awesome. But you got Sengun as well. Like in school, when there's a big time test, you can't miss. You have to go, and you're going to have to show up, and you got to be there, and you got to take that test. It should be the same thing with that as well. If you're going to have these 5, 6 big superstars going up against each other, all you mother effers got to play like that.
Well, I think actually it's a pretty decent segue. Actually, we're going to do something else here, but I think it's a pretty decent segue. We're talking about the NBA in here. There's been a big stuff that's coming out these last couple weeks, and it's mainly to do with baseball. Is baseball making a huge comeback right now? Baseball has been dominating the charts. Called the World Baseball Classic, the hangover from that, and everybody's so excited. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, if you look on the graphic we have on the screen here, the World Baseball Classic had about 10.8 million, where the entire NBA Finals had about 10.2 million. And this is just a tournament that really means nothing. Tim, and when you're talking about before, I know you're a big baseball guy. What do you think this is the new trend? Is baseball finally back and taking over the NBA, or is it more of an NBA problem?
Let me start by just saying how surprised I am by all this. You could also go back to the World Series last year. I think the last 2 years, the World Series has vastly outperformed the NBA.
That game 7?
So, yeah, exactly. you had a game 7 in the NBA finals and it still didn't even touch what, the World Series was doing. So I'm really surprised by this. Let me go back like a little bit. I think Major League Baseball for a long stretch of time made like just some of the worst decisions. Like they could not get out of their own way. And I still think you see shadows of that. They make decisions all the time where I'm just floored by how bad and how blind they are to some of this stuff. So I am really surprised to see that they've been able to turn a corner with some of this. Whereas, I think the NBA had made a lot of good decisions, 10 years ago, but the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie in terms of ratings, in terms of TV contracts that are going around. There's a lot of pieces of evidence to show that, man, baseball is really having a moment. Now, I want to say one thing. I think part of it is a little bit of luck with matchups that we've had. World Baseball Classic aside, although that's another good example because you had the U.S., going to the finals. But the last 2 World Series, you've had the Dodgers and the Yankees, 2 massive markets, 2 very storied teams, lots of star power on both teams. And then you have the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, which has this sort of U.S. versus Canada aspect to it. You've kind of got a David versus Goliath thing because people were starting to sour on the Dodgers. So I think baseball, these matchups sort of fell into their lap to have this incredible, really big run with the World Series. NBA, on the other hand, had the Thunder and the Pacers last year. No disrespect to those teams or those fans, but I think diehard NBA fans were excited about that. But does the average sports fan, are they able to name more than 3 players on either of those teams? I don't know. So I think part of it was circumstance. I've got a weird perspective on this, and I don't know if this fuels like the massive rating shift, but it's just something I've noticed. I used to do some consulting for the Premier Lacrosse League. Hard to draw parallels between MLB and NBA there. But the one thing they did really well and that they understood was that a big part of their revenue was going to come from merch. And a big part of those merch sales was having a really good social media presence that highlighted their sales, that highlighted their stars. And it was really geared towards younger crowds. It was geared towards, 10 to 15-year-old boys who were really getting into lacrosse, wanted to stunt at school and wear the latest and greatest. That's how they made a lot of their money. What's weird, though, is that parallel shows up in some of the bigger leagues. With baseball, the NBA, and football, yes, the TV contracts are a huge source of revenue, but those are like 10 to 15-year deals. So you are locked into that money for huge stretches of time. Year over year, it's hard to kind of find too many growth levers because the TV money is baked in sometimes a decade in advance. Ticket sales, kind of the same thing. Yeah, that can fluctuate, but every stadium has a fixed amount of tickets that they can sell. So ticket sales have kind of a cap too. So what's their growth lever? It's the merch. It's selling to young kids who want to have like that 3rd and the 4th jersey. And what I think baseball has done really well is lean into that. They've had the City Connect jerseys. And whatever you have to say about those things get a lot of buzz online. A lot of the kids love them. And even if they've got 3 or 4 Aaron Judge jerseys, guess what? They want the City Connect too. And I think that they've done a really good job of branding themselves, creating an army of walking advertisements for the sport. I don't know if that's why you've seen their ratings just completely dwarf basketball, but it is something that I think they've finally started to get right. It also helps that they finally fixed the issue of not having games last 4 hours long. They really cut down on that. I think that was a smart move. Whereas the NBA, who I used to be really on top of that, seems to just be having, these swings and misses, no pun intended. The NBA Cup, I think, was something that they thought was going to be this big splash. And again, diehard NBA fans probably love it, but I think the average fan is just confused. Like, why am I looking at this freaking neon laser tag style court all of a sudden playing for this tournament? I don't really understand. I guess they go to Vegas. What does that have to do with anything? So it's weird, man. It's like they flip-flopped, credit to Theo Epstein. I think the MLB hired him to kind of course correct and make a lot of better decisions for the average fan experience. I think he probably deserves a lot of credit. You asked the question of like, is this a crisis for the NBA? I don't know, man. I don't know what they do. We're looking at another year where it's probably going to be the Thunder representing the West, and NBA fans probably love that. But do NBA execs love that Oklahoma City is going to represent, half of the finals viewership?
Yeah. See, I'm gonna go a little bit different approach on the, because I feel like that it's more of, I think the MLB has finally got stars back. And I think that the MLB has finally nailed some of these guys. You got Aaron Judge, who, I'm a Red Sox fan, so I hate the Yankees, but yet I still like Aaron Judge whenever he's up the bat. He's so massive and he doesn't come off cocky. I enjoy watching him, even though I want him to strike out every time, but he's a great player. Shohei Ohtani is one of the biggest stars in the world right now. It just seems like an approachable dude. You got the younger generation. You got the Ellie Deli Cruzes and the Ronald Acuñas, and these guys are bringing this flair, but it comes off as fun. And I think with the NBA, it's becoming more annoying because you got your superstars, and all it seems like they're doing is complaining that they don't get the calls. And the three-point shot, that has really kind of messed things up for the NBA, although it is kind of cool whenever you got these guys. There's only one Steph Curry, and everybody wants to be Steph Curry's all of a sudden, and there is only one, and he can make it look really cool, and he can shoot it, and all that good stuff, but it's kind of boring for viewership if they keep on missing them. If they're hitting them, it's exciting as hell. But I think that that's a problem, though, is that the product is kind of watered down a little bit right now, and I think they're running out of stars that are relatable, and I think that Victor Wembanyama is going to be such an important person going forward for the NBA because of the attitude that he brings. That dude wants to win so bad, and he reminds me of like that old school generation of basketball players that the old heads and the young heads can both get around. So I think Victor is going to have to wear a cape on his back. Luka should be that guy, but he comes off extremely irritating to anybody that he's not on your team with all the crying and the yelling at the refs and everything like that. Anthony Edwards, if you get him, it's always gone back and forth on here. I find Anthony Edwards just annoyingly overrated, but that's just me. But he is a damn good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I don't buy into the whole that he's the great. Like I don't relate to it. I don't like him. I'm not much like that. I'm trying to think. I said that probably the wrong way, but you get the idea what I'm saying. It's a love-hate kind of thing. I think he's a damn good player. I'm going to make that established. I think he's good, but it just drives me nuts. But I think it's a star power issue that the NBA is running into, that the Steph Currys are leaving. Love or hate LeBron. LeBron was such a major part of this. But all those guys that they were banking on everything on are all starting to leave and retire. And the younger generation, I don't think there is that guy that people are looking up to right now. Maybe Vic, but Cooper Flag maybe or something. But I think that's a big problem too, is that MLB finally has got stars back again, and it's bringing people back to the parks, and the product has been good. And I think that's the other thing as well, is that the product has been damn good. That World Series last year was one of the best World Series I've ever seen. It was
crazy.
Even the one before that, with Freddie Freeman, and there was just so many great moments that's like, okay, I can see why people are watching this. I still think the season is too long, but there's also time to improve. The pitch count clock has drastically improved everything, and it's so noticeable now. Whenever you walk up whenever you're watching the game, like, damn, they're already pitching again. So I think that's a big thing, is that star power and MLB finally, and I think you were right, Theo Epstein helping out with everything. And they finally started getting things right. Even the All-Star game is still exciting. Those guys want to win. And I think there's a will. And these guys are making a boatload of money, but yet they're out there playing because they understand it's a kid's game.
I think it's because the MLB is listening to their fans and the NBA is not. I feel like the last 4 or 5 years, it's been the same stuff with the NBA, the ticky-tack fouls, the foul baiting, I'm going to start crying if you don't start giving me calls. I can't play hard defense because then the ref is going to give it to this guy and he's going to go through the free throw line 47 times. I mean, shout out to Ben Adebayo scoring 83 points. That's my dog. Always represent Miami. But, dude, 40 free throws is like, wow, man. Like, is it really his fault or is it the ref's fault? That's a whole different conversation that we can have another day. But I just feel like they're not listening to their fans on the stuff that they want to change. And you lost a lot of the old heads, a lot of the new heads. Obviously, I feel like a lot of them love basketball, just like myself and us. I feel like they love basketball and they love the game for sure. But a lot of the old heads are going away from the game because it's just too soft. It really is. It's just too soft. And with the MLB, the old heads always loved baseball, America's pastime, for a reason. And now, to Tim's point, they're going crazy on social media. They're relating to the young fans like crazy. The World Baseball Classic really brought families together, if you really think about it. All these these third world countries that can't do the same things that we do. Venezuela, Ecuador, Honduras, or whatever. I know they weren't in the baseball classic, but DR, like these big time teams for these small time countries came to the United States and started doing their thing. They started playing the offensive game of baseball with so much pride and an excitement that you saw when they go up against USA. They're just there like, and then the Hispanic teams are going crazy, going wild. Even Japanese teams, the Chinese teams, they're going crazy. They're representing their own country. And that's just what made it more exciting for baseball fans to see. You saw it in 2023, and you just saw it now this past, what was it, like 2 months ago? That, bro, it just showed so much excitement for the MLB. And then with the rule changing, bro, making the game faster, making more runs, making more stolen bases. The ABS challenge is freaking magnificent to me, if you really think about it. I know a lot of people are complaining about the umpires and stuff, but let's be real. The umpires call the game 90% of the time fair and good. You know, the other 10%, we're human. It is what it is. But
I want to say like 97% of the time they're right.
Exactly. But just to put that on a nutshell, man, the MLB is listening to their fans and the NBA is not, and which is why they are in a crisis. I agree. They really are in a crisis, because if they don't really wake up and start fixing some stuff and letting guys play freaking defense, bro, they're going to lose a lot of money, a lot of fans.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I can remember the 2009, I want to say, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It was Lakers Celtics. You know, it was one of Kobe's last titles. That game was ugly. It was scratching and clawing. I think the final score was like 89 to 82 or something like that. I totally agree that those are the kinds of basketball games that are actual like theater, where there's actual drama and you can feel it, and it's just hard scrap actual basketball being played. You know, I think one thing where I think the NBA probably got this wrong, this might have been an inflection point, was they watched the NFL shift their rules towards more offense because they were making so much off of fantasy football. They were getting so much, you know, good attention, new eyeballs because of all this passing, all these passing yards that were, you know, materializing all of a sudden. They had made changes to, you know, where DBs couldn't get away with as much on passing interference, couldn't hit the quarterback. All of a sudden you see passing yards kind of go through the roof, and that made a lot of the fantasy owners happy. The NBA tried to follow suit, but what's happened is exactly what you're describing, G-Mike. It's not a better product. It's just more opportunities to go to the free throw line. The players are smart. They've figured it out. It's less of an entertaining product in the name of just more points on the board. I don't know what we do to fix that. Maybe gambling is going to fill that void, and we just start, you know, finding different prop bets that tilt the scales and tilt the rules towards a more entertaining product. But I completely agree. The game's not what it was, you know, 15 or 20 years ago. I think that's why the old heads prefer college basketball, is because it's more of an actual game being played and less gamesmanship, where you're just trying to draw a foul any way you can, shoot 40 free throws a game.
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah, and I want to go back with a little bit with baseball as well. As I think the effort is there as well, and I know that the NBA is trying to figure out their All-Star weekend and all that good stuff, and it got a little bit better this year. That tournament thing was still confusing, but you had some players that were trying to take it a little bit more serious. But the home run derby still is awesome, and they were able to. They made it a little bit shorter. They did it with the timeouts and all that stuff. It still is awesome what these guys are able to do, because it is still one of the hardest things to do to hit a baseball. I don't care what anybody says. Golf ball, baseball, those are some hard sports to play. So to see these guys just absolutely crush balls out there, that is a great thing. And I think that the effort comes back into it as well, because that they want to win that All-Star game, and they represent it. And it's not for like a huge amounts of money or anything. It's about pride, and they really do appreciate what they have and what they got going on. So I think that baseball is just in a better spot right now. The young players are doing really well, and it's just clicking right now. I haven't been this excited about baseball in quite some time. It might just, like we were saying before, maybe because of doing that post-World Baseball Classic. But even going back to that World Baseball Classic, it was great because you took a game that was pretty meaningless. I mean, it means nothing to anybody except for pride, but that was such huge ratings, and I was dying to watch the next week. Italy was a great story, Australia was a cool story. You got these guys that really just want to play. And like, I loved how all the players were talking about this is such an important thing to do for your country. It was awesome. It was awesome to see. So I think that's a lot to do with it as well, is just effort and pride in it. And I think the NBA players kind of somewhat take it for granted that they're so athletic and so great at what they do that it just doesn't seem like they really care as much sometimes until the playoffs start. Playoff basketball is the stories for the most part, but it just seems like baseball, they want it more.
Oh, the World Baseball Classic was great. I'm so glad that tournament ended like 2 weeks ago, and like I'm still thinking about it a lot. That was such a great tournament. Yeah. Remember that Czech pitcher who's like an electrician full time and plays baseball as a hobby, but every 3 years gets to pitch against Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah,
how great was that?
That kid that was like 19 years old, I think, from Panama or something like that. Like crazy. Imagine going back to school and be like, "Yo, I pitched against Ohtani, dude." Like,
seriously.
Yeah. There were some great storylines out of that. But Stevie, back to your point about stars for baseball too. That probably has a lot to do with it. I think you nailed it. Remember like 2014 when baseball's trying so hard to make Mike Trout, as big a deal as LeBron James and as big a deal as Peyton Manning. And no shade to Mike Trout, he's a great player, but like he's not out there. He's not, schmoozing. He's not, doing funny TV spots. He's like the most milquetoast guy ever who just wants to lift weights, get on base, play well. He doesn't want anything else. And so, I think we're in a place now where, we do have a lot more marketable stars. You've got a lot more, interesting, I don't want to call them gimmicks, but a lot of interesting dynamics. I'm glad you brought up the All-Star game. Remember the swing off to finish the game last year? They had to have the home run.
That should be extra innings every single time. Get your two best home run hitters, and that's how you end extra inning games. That would be awesome.
That's sick. I don't see.
I'd be all in favor of changing that. It's like a permanent rule on there. But having just brought up Mike Trout, I wish if there was like one of those UNICEFs or something like that for guys that should get a ring. It's Mike Trout though, man. Like that poor guy never left the Anaheim Angels really. They weren't even the Los Angeles Angels or Anaheim, whatever they were at that point. He was just always around these losing teams. He got injured. He tried so damn hard to be the guy. And that guy should just get traded to somebody for one day and give him a ring. That guy deserves it all, man. Like, and he always was a stand-up guy. He, like you were saying though, too. He wasn't always the most marketable, but he was good at what he was doing. Never a problem. Never like any kind of off the field issues or anything like that. It's just I think his team was a losing team, so that didn't help out that their biggest star was on a bad team.
Oh yeah, totally. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think he's going to win a World Series, and he's going to go down as like Dan Marino plus Karl Malone combined.
Yeah,
Adam Iverson, Charles Barkley. I heard the other day. Side note. I heard the other day on a podcast that Ohtani offered the Angels the same deal he offered the Dodgers, and which is he's getting only $3 million from the team in the next 10 years, but he's making so much endorsement money that it doesn't freaking matter. And he gave the same deal to the Angels because he wanted to stay there. He doesn't like change. He wanted to stay where he was at. And they told him, nope. Crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. Well, that's also one of the professional segues here. Because we got someone else that made a lot of money, and that is Mr. Dude, how do you like him? Mr. Kirk Cousins just got another deal from the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this deal is on paper, it's 5 years, $172 million. But there is some, nuances to this deal. Basically, this deal is a 1-year guaranteed deal that is worth about $20 million. They have team options for the next couple of years after that, so it could be up to $172 million. So that is a lot of money for Kirk Cousins. And if you ever was wondering about this as well, Kirk Cousins has now made $321 million in his 14-year career in the NFL and has 0 rings to prove it or anything like that. But the dude is just a money machine. Guys, going back to the brass tacks of the football situation in here, I think this was personally a fantastic move for the Raiders. Tim, I want to have you start with this one, man. What do you think about this move for the Raiders and on your thoughts on Kirk Cousins making a lot of money again?
Yeah, well, and it's even more money because the guy only shops at Kohl's. And so, like his overhead is very, very low.
Exactly.
I agree, Stevie. I think this is a great move for the Raiders, and I'm a lifelong Denver Bronco fan. I don't say nice things about the Raiders unless I absolutely have to, but this was the right move. Him and Fernando Mendoza, who they're obviously going to take, are the same person. Like they're the same, friendly, religious, shucks, milk drinking guy. And so the fact that Fernando Mendoza is going to come into the league and have himself plus 15 years kind of like taking him under his wing, that is such a great scenario for them to develop their quarterback of the future. This is kind of an old school move too, right? Like 20, 30 years ago, the first round picks would usually sit for a lot of the season. Remember, Aaron Rodgers was on the Packers for a long time before he ever, got a start. This used to be how it was done. And then in the last 10 or 15 years, the first round picks are going right into the deep end. So this is kind of an old school football move, but I think it makes perfect sense because not only do you have, your rookie quarterback, you've got Clint Kubiak, who's a head coach for his first year. There's going to be a lot of figuring out to do for the organization. This is kind of a pillar of stability for them. The Kirk Cousins memes, the jokes, they're out there, they're real. But you know what? He is a rock solid quarterback. He's going to give them the stability, the predictability, the reliability that they need. He's going to be smart. He's going to teach Fernando Mendoza how to read defenses, read NFL defenses, a lot better than if Fernando was on his own with just a quarterbacks coach. I think this is such a good setup for them. And you know what? It's more than just Kirk because they invested in a lot of other places in their lineup too. The Raiders got a ton of guys. They got Tyler Linderbaum. They realized that their offensive line was Swiss cheese. Miraculously, they still have Max Crosby. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But they have a much more complete team than they had last year. And I think with all of the question marks, with all the new faces they're introducing, why not get someone who's been there and done that on this is his fifth team or something like that and wins games.
Yeah, and the other good thing as well is you brought up Clint Kubiak being a first-time coach. They worked together back in Minnesota as well. So they're already familiar with each other, their system they want to run. And you nailed it on the head, too, is that Kirk Cousins is the absolute perfect guy to bring in underneath for Fernando Mendoza because they're like the same type of person. You're not going to have any off-the-field issues or anything like that. And a role model to look up to would be Kirk Cousins in there. And the other thing I think that's great about this deal is that it's team-based, if you will. So it's 5 years. So let's say Mendoza isn't ready for 2 more years. You still have Kirk Cousins, so I believe he's 36 right now. So quarterbacks are playing into their 40s right now. So even if he plays out that entire contract, Mendoza's still going to be cheap. Even if he plays out the entire contract, he's going to be 41 at that point. So I don't foresee that happening. I think Mendoza is probably going to start maybe middle of year 2, possibly year 3, something like that. And it goes back to sometimes these guys, they need that. They need to learn a little bit more. And I think Mendoza is very intelligent and has the will. If you watch that championship game when that last play, it's going to live on forever. That's just type of guy that he is. He has that will, determination. But if you watch also the press conference afterwards, that guy is so polished of exactly what to say. He is the perfect spokesman for your team. Never gonna, I hope nothing changes, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be a problem for the Raiders at all. And it's going to be kind of interesting seeing him in Vegas when he's going to be out there, because he's not that kind of guy. It doesn't seem like yet. But I think this move is absolutely brilliant for the Raiders, and maybe that's the Tom Brady influence finally that they're like, hey, Brady in that same situation. Brady was drafted. They had Drew Bledsoe.
That's right.
So
that's right.
This sounds almost kind of like the same kind of guy in there, So. Mike, are you excited for Kirk Cousins making another payday, or what's your thoughts on this one, brother?
Man, shout out to Kirk Cousins and his agent for being the biggest finessers ever, surpassing Ben Simmons, ex-Philadelphia 76er. Because, man, the guy has only won one playoff game. Yes, he has a lot of regular season wins, and I do agree that he is a good quarterback, 100%. I think it's a good idea to bring him in and let Mendoza learn under him. I think that's what is going to be the move. I still think they draft Mendoza. I don't think they trade away from it. But man, the biggest finesse king in sports ever. Like the type of game that the agent was spitting in this business table has to be studied, man. Like I need to talk to this guy because when I get on ESPN or Barstool or whatever, I need him as my agent. Because that guy's going out there and getting him paid. This is the second time in a row that Kirk Cousins gets a big time contract, man. Like if you put it in perspective, he's had 2 contracts, put them together, 9 years, about $309 million. Like
321.
The last 2 contracts, this one and the other one.
Yeah, I believe it's 321 is what his career earnings are right now. Yeah,
dude, like crazy, man, crazy finesse. But to get away from that, yes, I think that it's a good move for the Raiders. I think they should have paid him less, in my opinion. But whatever, it is what it is. It's going to be a good move for them, for Mendoza to learn under him for sure. I think he's a good winning quarterback. He still has to prove himself in the playoff perspective, but that could be, some players, some athletes, like if you guys have played sports before, you get to a certain level, you can't reach the other threshold. It happens. Not everybody can be the Tom Brady's, the LeBron James, the Michael Jordans, the Otanis and stuff like that. So some people just reach their threshold, but I think this right here is what really brings value for Kirk Cousins, because I think he's very intelligent and he goes out there and he learns. If you watch the Netflix series Quarterback, he was actually in both seasons of that series. Yeah. And the guy is very intelligent. He learns, he studies, like he knows what's going on out there on the field. There's times that he'll throw 5-6 touchdowns a game with 400 yards, and then there's other times he'll only throw one with like 2 picks. Obviously, the game of football is so fast that every game is different. Any given Sunday, like it's never going to be the same thing. But dude, shout out to him for getting his money. Shout out to his agent. That guy needs to get paid. I don't know what the percentage is there, but Kirk, you need to give him a big percentage on that. And then the Raiders, they're doing good moves, man. Like you guys mentioned, they brought in some players that are going to help change the team. They have a lot of draft picks, which is really going to help them down the line. And I agree with Tim. The only thing that they really need to work on is that offensive line, because that is going to be scary for Mendoza and Kirk, and even Alshon Jeffrey, because, man, like, there's only so much that you could put on his body. Like, y'all need to protect all 3 of them.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Is that I think the Kirk Cousins coming in there as well as now. I mean, Geno Smith was a shell of himself when he was in Seattle. Seattle, he was actually pretty good. When he went to the Raiders, it just didn't look the same. I don't know if that was that the Chip Kelly system didn't work for him. If Pete Carroll, I really thought the Pete Carroll thing was going to work out well. It just didn't work out that well. I don't think the team was very good either. So that's tough to do whenever you don't have that big of a team. But I think the Kirk Cousins going there is going to help Bowers. It's going to help Genty. It's going to help their players develop, because now they're going to have a good still throwing quarterback, and that's been there, done that, and seen a lot of things. And not the fact that Geno Smith hasn't, but I think with adding that Linderbaum, like you're saying, that's going to add that line a little bit better. But I think having Kirk Cousins there, who can still sling it pretty well, is going to do wonders for all these guys to be able to learn from and to work around and stuff. So I personally think it's a great move for the Raiders.
I think it's also kind of a smart admission on their part of being realistic that it's a really tough division, and they're not just going to be, competing for it right away. So why not give Mendoza a little bit longer of a horizon to work with rather than throw him in there and say you need to win games right now? I mean, that's such a brutal division. The AFC as a whole is pretty loaded, so it kind of takes some of the pressure off of we have to win right now and sets a more realistic expectation of maybe we'll win more games a couple years down the line. But Stevie, you brought it up. Can we just acknowledge how funny it is? This is objectively the funniest pick for Vegas quarterbacks, freaking Cousins and Mendoza. I can only picture like the team dinners, at the Bellagio or something, everyone getting $30,000 bottles of wine. And then you got Cousins and Mendoza on their end of the table drinking milk or something.
Can I get tapped? Can I get tapped?
Yeah. Right. So
yeah, that is definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah, bizarre fit maybe culturally, but football wise, pretty hard to argue.
Yeah, I mean, essentially they're paying Kirk Cousins to pretty much get beat up behind that offensive line and let Mendoza lift some weights. He's a little bit smaller, I think, in which it's just going to take some time. He'll bulk up. But I think that he's eventually going to be really good. I have a lot of faith in Mendoza. I just like his presence and the way it seems like he's processes the field, and he seems like a true winner and a guy that wants to try and work hard. And he doesn't seem like someone that's scared to work hard either. So I think he's going to be a good pick.
Cuban,
clutch,
baby.
Man.
Cuban, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Represent
He was
Cuban
real
beat.
clutch. I kept waiting for Mendoza and Indiana as a whole to kind of fall back down to earth all last year through the regular season and the playoff, and they just never did it. So he does seem to rise to the occasion pretty well. But I think that extra time, that kind of longer leash they're giving him is probably the right move in the long term.
Yeah, agreed. All right, fellas, we're going to go ahead and jump from the gridiron and go to the big college basketball games we got coming up this weekend, man. It is going to be awesome. We have the Final Four for the men's: Connecticut, Arizona, Illinois, and Michigan in this one. Fellas, this is going to be a stacked Final Four. It's very chalky with you got the top seeds over there, and Illinois sneaking their way in. Tim, what's your thoughts on this one, man? Who are you picking, and what's your thoughts on this?
I think I got to go UConn over Illinois, Arizona over Michigan, with Arizona winning the whole thing. But you know what? I think any of these four teams could do it. It is interesting. I think you got the one half of the bracket, which has just been the pure chaos upsets. That UConn win was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. Illinois, very fundamentally sound team, but you had Florida going out in the second round. They weren't a threat anymore. And then Illinois beats Houston because Houston just seemed like they didn't really have it. So a little bit surprising to see them there, but I do think they're a worthwhile team. Then on the other side of the bracket, like you said, just the chalkiest chalk matchup ever. Two really good teams. They've been good wire to wire. I like Arizona a little bit more than Michigan simply because they're both really defensively good teams. I think this is going to be a well-played game of basketball. I think they both have top 5 defenses. I just think Arizona has proven over the course of the season and over the course of the tournament that they have more ways to score. I'm going to give you kind of a weird boomer take here a little bit, but I do think there's something to be said that when the game shifts, from college gyms to NBA stadiums, and then again to football stadiums for the Final Four, that does mess with depth perception. That can throw some offenses off if they're used to living and dying by the three and outside shooting. Arizona doesn't really do that. They have a lot of ways they can score points. So I think they're really well equipped to win a Final Four game. And then I do think they'll take it home. I like UConn on the other side simply because of their experience. They've been there and done that a lot recently. You got Caravan with the chance to win his 3rd national title in college. That hasn't been done since like the UCLA teams in the 70s. Pretty crazy story there. But I like the experience of UConn. I like the well-rounded offense of Arizona. And then I think that well-rounded, balanced game plan that Arizona has is going to get them over the top.
G-Mike, you're up, my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the same picks for UConn and Illinois. I think it's gonna be a very good game. I think both of them are gonna be very good games, but I think UConn, in my opinion, I think they're gonna take over this game because of their speed. Throughout the whole regular season, they have been great shot makers, and then in the tournament, they kind of simmered down on that, and they started going downhill with that. It could have been confidence, it could have been execution. Who really knows? But after that game against Duke and that big-time shot, I'm sure their confidence is through the roof. The momentum is going through the roof. Dan Hurley, for sure, is in their ear letting them know, if you guys did that, you can do anything. That's what I would be saying, really. So I think they're going to have that edge, that winning edge over Illinois. If they're not going to be shooting as well, they got to be careful because Illinois has a huge team, very tall. Yeah. So they're going to get a lot of rebounds. They're going to be boxing out a lot. So they got to knock down their shots. But I think this is the game where they bounce back and they start knocking down their shots because that confidence is going to be at such a all-time high, right? With Michigan and Arizona, I think that's going to be a very close game. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if in the beginning Michigan goes up by 10, 15 points, maybe even going into halftime, right? But with Arizona being such a great defense, the best defense in college basketball, that I think they will turn it up during halftime, come out at halftime and be like, yo, you know what? We're going to start playing the way we play. Way more physical, way more defensive oriented together as a unit. They're going to knock down that lead. They're going to make it close. And then I think it's just going to be up for grabs at the end is who's going to really want it more in those last 30 to 20 to 10 seconds. I think it's going to be a really tight game, if not tied. And I think it's just going to be up for grabs there. But I'll pick Arizona as well, just because I think their defense is going to show up when they need to, and they're going to go out there and execute. And Michigan's going to be just a slight step back from them.
Yeah, I think both of you guys nailed it on the head, really. I'm going to take UConn over Illinois, and for all the reasons you guys have already said, I don't think we need to go over that one more time, really, with it. And Arizona and Michigan, man, that almost sounds like that should be the national championship game, just because
right.
of how good these guys are. So it's kind of a shame that has to be, the one next to it or whatever. But I do think UConn's going to make it to that one, and I want to go with Arizona as well in this one. And I think that's going to be a damn good game, though, too. Arizona's got a pretty big-sized team. I remember watching them the first game of the season whenever they played Florida, and I was just highly impressed with the team on there. They got a James on the team, so they have a good chance now. Like he's done so much this season.
The first James in a Final Four, baby.
he's done so much, So, but having said that, no, all jokes aside, though, I think Arizona is the most complete team, and I think Arizona is going to end up winning the national championship. I originally was thinking Florida just because I'm a Florida fan. But after that first game of the season, I was like, damn, Arizona looks legit. They look like an NBA team where they play out there. So I'm going to stick with that one. And I'm going to take Arizona over UConn in the final. But I think that both these games are going to be very, very exciting and worth a watch to see. And one more thing on college basketball real quick. Got to give a shout-out to Cam Boozer. He won the AP National Player of the Year. I think it was definitely well-deserved for Cameron Boozer. He was averaging 22.5 points a game, 10.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, and shooting 55.6% from the field. What do you guys think he's going to end up as far as the draft goes? Because the NBA is kind of weird when it comes to players of the year. Usually, like the Heisman winner is almost like the consensus. Most likely, he's probably going to be like the number one pick in the NFL. With basketball, Jalen Brunson, I brought him up already. Jalen Brunson didn't go to the Mavs to the second round, and he was the player of the year that same year. So it's kind of interesting how that kind of plays out. Do you guys have a certain team you'd like to see him go, or do you think he's going to go pretty high? Mike, what's your thoughts on Cam Boozer?
I think he's going to go high. I think it just all depends on who wins the lottery and who gets the second pick and the third pick. I think he's going to be a top 3 pick for sure. But I could see him, and I think that he would help out their team a lot. It would be the Brooklyn Nets. I think it would be a great spot for him, really. You got who's probably going to be first? So maybe New Orleans or Indiana Pacers. I think right there with the Indiana Pacers, with Pascal Siakam there and how big their team is, it's not going to really play well for them. I think it would be better for them to go with AJ. I always butcher his last name, but AJ from BYU. I think it would be better for them to go there with Halliburton coming back. He's going to be running the floor. He's going to be being the facilitator on the offense, where you could get a good wing, 6'9" wing, very athletic, a good shooter, a good defensive player that to match up with Halliburton there and with Siakam. I think that would be a good placement. But I like Carlos Boozer on the Brooklyn Nets. He'll help him with the front court, and it'll help him with their post abilities, because he's a great back to the basket player.
Yeah, that's spot on. It's tough to tell a team. It's all going to depend on those envelopes, right? I know they're not ping pong balls anymore. It's all going to depend on who ends up where. You brought up a good point. The player of the year, I almost feel like, is irrelevant. I think where he's going to stand out is that he's going to have that NBA player pedigree. He's going to have that NBA player heritage, and I think that organizations are going to like that. Okay, this guy's been taught from birth, literally, how to be a professional, how to work hard. He's going to know exactly what those organizations are going to want to see. They're going to know that they don't have to worry too much about instilling, the work ethic in him, things like that. So I don't see him slipping too far in the first round, simply because I think they know what they're getting more than any particular award. I think, they like what this family's about. They like what they've seen, both from his heritage, but also he had a great regular season, and I think they know that they know what they're getting. He seems like a pretty safe lottery pick to me.
Yeah, him and his brother. I think his brother's going to be great too. So I like you were saying before, seems like the basketball family and both kids seem like they're got their head on the right shoulders, and they're already doing the commercials together, trying to make it light of everything. So shout out to them for doing that. I think it's pretty good. I was looking at a couple of mocks, and like you were saying as well, Gene, like that it's still up in the air who can get it there. But I think the Pacers is a great pick for him to end up there as well. So I like what you're saying about that one. So I think that's a good spot for him. But congratulations to Cam Boozer for winning the National Player of the Year. And I think he was very much well-deserved. I'm almost positive he was unanimously voted, and he was also only the 5th freshman to ever been able to get that award. So that's a big shoes to fill right there. And it's been happening more and more recently. Anthony Davis was one of them as well. And I can't remember the couple other ones, but it is pretty good company to be in whenever you can say you're part of that crowd on there. All right, folks.
You saw who got Coach of the Year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I had to throw that one in there one more time.
You gotta represent the U, baby.
There we go. All right, fellas, we got one more segment, and that's going to be our down bad the date for the night.
It's time for the Down Bad debate.
All right, Mr. G. Mike, I'm going to have you take the reins on this one here, man. You're the one that kind of brought the light to me in this one. I didn't really know much about it, so let the people know what we got going on here and explain this nonsense we have going on.
Patrick Beverley has gone viral once again, and I truly believe now after this convo, because he's gone viral several times on different basketball topics, but this time I really think that this guy really says stuff for clickbait, honestly, just so he could get his name out there and, still be known. He actually got kicked off one podcast, and now he's on another podcast because they didn't really like him. Just want to throw that out there. But he went on the podcast and he said that he will choose James Harden as an overall better player than Dwyane Wade. And that's cool. You have your opinion and it is what it is. But the reasons he was saying on why James Harden, it was very baffling to me. He was basically right here. We have it up. He was saying MVPs, Harden, scoring titles, Harden, assist titles, Harden, all NBA, Harden, all second team, Harden, career, mostly everything Harden, except for career blocks and weight, right? But at the end of the day, like when you really put it into perspective, do you include championships? Do you include how he made his team better? Do you include playoff wins? Do you include Olympic gold medals? Do you include the fact that they made a nickname out of you because you were so damn fast on the court? Do you include that you won an NBA title in your 3rd year and the other guy never won an NBA title? Well, I think this year is a good chance with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But maybe we'll not win an NBA title. And it's just like, the way I see it is, I choose Wade over Harden because I'm in the vicinity of, if you're a two-way player and you are amazing on both sides of the ball while they're comparing you to one guy who is just amazing on one side of the ball, like very, very good, it doesn't win the argument for me. And then Wade got 3 championships. He would have got scoring titles too if he didn't get injured. That 09 season would probably be been his and going on if LeBron didn't come over, if Chris Bosh didn't come over, if he didn't take the back seat to these guys, he probably would have won a scoring title too. And assist, yeah, maybe Harden would have taken over the edge there for sure. But just being a two-way player and showing that dominance and showing that effectiveness to win and giving so much effort too, because there's a lot of times that Harden does not give that effort. It's very baffling to me that he would choose Harden over Wade. And I think it's because of several reasons, but it is what it is. That's his opinion. But I want to hear your guys' opinion on it. Who would you choose? Dwyane Wade or James Harden?
I would pick Dwyane Wade in a heartbeat. Look, James Harden is like the perfect guy to summarize everything we've talked about today. You mentioned the finesse lord of football. You know who the finesse lord of basketball has been? It's been James Harden. You know who has led to a lot of the debate and the discourse around load management? It's been James Harden. Who has contributed to the style of NBA play being degraded and just all about getting fouls? It's been James Harden. And so I got to go with D Wade. Look, Pat Bev knows what he's doing. He is a elite troll at this point. He knows how to get attention, how to get, his thoughts out there and viral. But I think everything you said, G Mike, is perfect for D Wade. Look, the guy was, a consummate team player, a consummate leader. Did he have help on the teams where he won championships? Absolutely. But James Harden's had plenty of help on his teams too, and he has one trip to the finals to show for it. If my memory serves me.
Who did they lose to?
That's right. That's right. They lost to D Wade. So I got to go with him. There's something to winning championships. There's something to winning games. Look, let's just take the stats and, all of the objective arguments about it. If I have to conjure an image of D Wade in my mind, it's him doing a Euro step and scoring. If I have to conjure up an image of James Harden in my mind, it's him jumping midair, shoving his chest into the nearest defender, and then hucking the ball in the vague area of the rim to get to the free throw line. Statistically, is he a pure scorer? Yeah, you can make that argument all day. You can cherry pick the stats. You want to make the argument that he has, a better impact on the game, but I don't buy it. I think what D Wade did when he was around was phenomenal. You said he made the team better around him. He could drive, he could shoot, but he was such a good distributor too. He was such a good leader in the locker room. And look, the guy's got 3 rings to show for it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's really hard to find a better argument than that.
And one of the rings, before you go, Steve, one of the rings, his first ring, they won because of him.
That's right.
Because of him.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was waiting. I was about to say,
Steve knows.
Dwyane Wade has 2 rings, okay? The NBA refs earned their own ring in that one. As a freaking Dallas Mavericks fan, he went to the free throw line, I think, 99 times in a 4-game season. Now, Bam Adebayo knows all about that for going 43 times. So Dwyane Wade understands all that about it. So I'm always still bitter about that championship that Miami got over my Dallas Mavericks, which Dallas should have freaking won that game. Having said that, I'll let that go in the past.
Is that he attacked so much. When we were down 0-2, he said, yo, give me the ball and get out the way. That's what he said.
He said, I'm going to pull
For sure he talked to Kobe. Rest in peace.
I'm still just so pissed off about that, man. I actually know exactly where I was. I was on this boat for my for views from the stands here. I was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and I was watching the finals, and I just went outside and threw everything that I had so I was still in the military at the time, so I threw everything I had and broke some stuff. It was a bad day for me, but anyways, having said that, though, I
was in elementary school, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, while I was out there serving America, but having said that,
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that the argument in this one is Dwyane Wade is an overall better player than James Harden is, I think. But I think if you want to take a catalyst to what Patrick Beverley is talking about, if this was like a March Madness tournament, I would take James Harden in a 1-game series over Dwyane Wade because of the way James Harden is able to score. Now, if you want a better overall season, a better overall player, it's Dwyane Wade. But if you're looking as a better seasonal player, just regular season, I think you have to kind of give it to James Harden because he's able to do more than Dwyane Wade in the regular season. Postseason Dwyane Wade, I was just bitching about it. Dwyane Wade in the postseason is another animal. Let's face it, he was one of the faces of USA basketball at that time too. He was so many things that he did to Miami, even Mike, you know about that whenever he jumped up on the scorer's table and said, "This is my house." Little moments like that has been very few and far between with James Harden. James Harden had some great highlight moves, but overall impact on the team and everything, I would have to give it to Dwyane Wade again on that one. So I understand what you were saying about what Patrick Beverley is trying to do, and he's very smart at what he does. Gets us talking about it, gets people talking about it, keeps his name relevant in the media and whatever it is that he's got going on. But I think the fact is that Dwyane Wade overall, I think, has a better career, championships just overall. But James Harden, I think, would probably be a better regular season player if you want to go in that aspect of it, what he's talking about.
So
I would take Dwyane Wade over James Harden.
Just to clarify right quick, Wade made a Final Four, Harden did it.
Yeah.
That's
fair enough. All I was saying is that if you would take a 1-game sample, if you had to have James Harden or Dwyane Wade kind of thing, clutch wise it would be Dwyane Wade. But I think overall, who would be able to probably dominate the game more, I think it would be probably James Harden in there.
They're both great players for sure.
Absolutely. And I think I liked what Dwyane Wade's point was that you can't necessarily say that someone's better than the other person is without having them actually in different circumstances. and Dwayne Wade is older than James Harden as well, so I still find it mind-boggling that Durant, Westbrook, and Ibaka and all of those guys were all on that Oklahoma City team and they couldn't win. Still, it's just mind-blowing to me that they lost. My Mavs beat them in the one year that I thought that everybody thought they were going to win, and then they ended up winning the championship that same year. But having said that, man, it's just crazy to me still that still hasn't happened. And if you go back to it as well, is that Harden has bounced around teams, and they have, besides this Cleveland thing, which waiting for the rug to fall out, it has been progressively worse for the team every time he's gone there. Great player. I'm not saying he's a bad player, so I don't want to make it come off as that. But James Harden hasn't really been the sole reason anybody's been winning on a winning team. Dwayne Wade, you can easily say that for the Miami Heat, even though they did have Shaq at one point, Lonzo Moore, all these other guys. Dwayne Wade was the focal point of those teams, though.
Yeah. Not only that, in hindsight, you look back at the 2010, Big Three unveil. I don't know that there's another guy that could have, been able to handle that media circus and all that crazy attention, all those crazy team dynamics. I don't know if there's anyone who could have handled that better than Dwayne Wade. It's almost kind of like you look at Mike Tomlin for the Steelers and you go man, that guy had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. He had all these characters, but he got them to move in the same direction, and he got everything wrangled and moving forward to win games. Dwayne Wade had to deal with LeBron when I think LeBron was probably at his least mature as a person, and maybe at times as a basketball player. He had to also have his ego in check and say, look, I want to get two other guys. I just don't think that run that they had happens with any other superstar as the centerpiece other than Dwayne Wade.
Very good point.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very forgotten aspect of it as well. That was Dwayne Wade's team, and he was able to swallow his pride enough to say, hey, if we can afford to get these guys in here, let's bring them in here and create something special. So that's a very, I feel unforgotten thing that was Dwayne Wade's team, and you bring in LeBron and all the other guys.
And let's not forget, in 2017, we were one game away from playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then ended up happening that we paid Whiteside, so Wade said, F y'all, I'm out of here, which was the dumbest move ever. Well, next to giving freaking Tyler Johnson $88 million for 4 years when the guy didn't do anything. But, dude, there's so much good to say about Wade that it's not comparable to Harden, because there's a lot of good things to say about Harden too, but there's several bad things to say about Harden.
Yeah, I don't think his shooting ability is consistent enough. I don't think he wants it to be consistent enough to put up with the baggage. I mean, Dwayne Wade has never purposely gotten fat enough to the point where the team just had to trade him and finally get rid of him the way Harden has. Great pure scorer when he wants to be, but man, when he wants to be is kind of a tough riddle for teams to figure out.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, both were great players. I was just looking it up as well because I was wondering. I couldn't quite remember, but I thought I was right. Dwayne Wade has never won an NBA MVP, but he did finish in third place. So obviously, he should have probably had an MVP maybe season in there. But I can understand what Patrick Beverley's trying to say. It's just whenever you really kind of compare the two, I kind of feel like NBA people are going to just go with Dwayne Wade in this one, just because of all the extra that we were going with. And like we were saying before, Dwayne Wade has constantly made these teams better. Harden, not necessarily so much.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for us for Views from the Stands. We want to give a special round of applause and a very much a thank you to Tim Benson for coming on the show. Tim, this is your time right here. If you want to promote anything you got going on or anything like that, the ring is yours right now. If you want anything else you want to tell anybody to come follow you on or any of those kind of things.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. This was great. Big fan of what you guys are doing, and it's been awesome, to talk shop with you guys. But yeah, my handle's on the screen here. I'm trying to get back out there, get involved in more podcasts and more broadcasts, and I'll be posting what I'm doing there. But pleasure to join you, and thanks again.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely have you back on, especially with playoffs coming up here soon. So we'll definitely have you coming back on. But we do have if you can see the handle we got going on there, we do have a big announcement. We'll be hopefully getting some social media network out there a little bit more. But we did just open our very own first ever Views from the Stands merch store. It's a very simple site, vftfstore.com. You can get a hat like this one right here. We got a bunch of different stuff out there. We got men's T-shirts, women's T-shirts. I even just made an apron for the cookouts with the logo on there. Actually, I'm kind of proud of that thing. It's kind of cool.
He's a chef.
It's a very affordable prices, and you can get everything directly on there, vftfstore.com. It's a big step for all of us there, and it's really helping us out. Thank you, everybody that already has purchased any items. And so far, we've had great reviews, and people really like the quality of everything. If there's anything else you guys want or need or anything, please feel free to email us and let us know. But please, and thank you for watching, and that's a big move for us. So please check out the website one more time. That's vftfstore.com. All the information is right there. It's all safe. It's all secure. It's through Shopify. So we really appreciate that one for you. Mr. G, Mike.
Yes, sir. Guys, thank you for tuning into the show. Tim, thank you for coming on. And just so you let you know, if you need us to go on your show and try to do a little collab, we could do that too. Try to help each other out for sure.
Absolutely. You be my first call, and then let's call Kirk Cousins' agent right after that.
No, for sure. I need to get his number right now, dude. Wow. Guys, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share the show with your family and friends or neighbors or any strangers you see at any games that you go to. Let them know. Views from the Stands is a great podcast for sports news, sports entertainment, sports information, whatever the hell it is. And if you guys are into sports gambling, I run a Telegram channel where we offer sports gambling slips daily, where we could get you winnings from $25 to $50 to $100 a day. You only pay $10 a month, and we have an affiliate program as well where you can make extra money on the side. So if you guys are into that, you'll see the link pop up on your screen. If not, you'll see my social media accounts. You can slide in my DM, and we can start a conversation on how to get you on and pop.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've already said it once, but have a very safe and happy Easter. We hope to see you guys back next week on Tuesday. Tim, it is a great honor to have you on the show. Look to be working forward with you guys again. For Views from the Stands, we are out. Good night.